I've been thinking about whether I should post this, but I figure other people need to know this stuff can happen. This happened to me about 2 months ago, and honestly, it still messes with me. So I live in this older house, nothing fancy. Just a regular 2-story place on a quiet street. My wife was visiting her parents upstate that weekend and my kids were at my parents' place. I had to stay back because of work, so it was just me. I didn't mind it honestly. I was looking forward to some peace and quiet, maybe watch some movies without anyone bothering me. Friday night around 8 p.m. I ordered a pizza, grabbed some beers from the fridge and just settled in on the couch. I put on some show I'd been meaning to watch. The house was quiet except for the TV. All the doors were locked, all the windows too. I always check because my wife gets paranoid about this stuff. Everything was secure. Around 10:30 p.m. I heard something outside. It sounded like maybe a branch or something hitting the roof. I didn't really think much of it at first, but then I heard it again. It was on the backside of the house. I went to the back door and looked out into the yard. I couldn't see anything, though. It was pretty dark back there, just trees and fence. I figured maybe it was just wind or an animal or something. I went back to my show, but then I started noticing other things. Like, I heard what sounded like something sliding along the side of the house. It was a dragging sound, like something heavy being pulled across the siding. I stopped watching TV and just listened. Nothing for a few minutes. Then I heard it again, this time on the other side of the house. I'll be honest, I started feeling weird about it. I wasn't like scared yet, just uncomfortable. I went around and checked all the doors and windows again. Everything was still locked. I even checked the ones upstairs, all locked. I told myself it was probably raccoons or something. They're pretty common around here. I went back to watching TV, but I kept listening. Around midnight, I heard something that made me stop. It sounded like someone was trying to open the back door, like someone grabbing the handle and pushing it. I could hear the handle moving, the little click sound it makes. My heart started going pretty fast. I turned off the TV and just sat there listening. The handle went quiet. I waited maybe 5 minutes but didn't hear anything else. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight and went to the back door. I looked out and didn't see anything. The yard was empty. Everything looked normal. I checked that the door was definitely locked, and it was. I even pushed on it myself to make sure the lock was actually holding. I told myself I was being paranoid. I went back and turned the TV back on, but I couldn't really focus on what was happening. I kept thinking about that sound. I turned all the inside lights on, which I probably should have done earlier. Having the lights on made me feel a lot better. Around 12:45 a.m. I heard a sound that I've never heard before. It was like someone was scratching or tapping on the kitchen window. Slowly. Like tap, tap, tap. Then a pause. Then tap, tap, tap again. Very deliberate. Not like an animal or wind. Like someone doing it on purpose. I went into the kitchen and turned on all the lights. I looked at the window, but it was just my reflection looking back at me. I couldn't see anything outside. I stood there and listened. The tapping stopped. I waited, but it didn't start again. Okay, so at this point, I was definitely freaked out. I'm not gonna lie. I thought about calling the police, but what would I even tell them? Someone is making noises. They'd probably think I was crazy. But I was starting to think maybe someone actually was outside. I went and got my dad's old baseball bat from the garage. I know that sounds kind of dumb, but I felt better having it. I locked the garage door behind me. Then I went around and made sure every single door and window was locked. I even locked the bedroom doors upstairs, which I normally never do. I turned on all the lights in the house. Every single one. Upstairs, downstairs, basement. All of them. I sat back down on the couch in the living room where I could see the front door and the back hallway. The TV was on, but I wasn't really watching it. I was just listening to everything. The house was making normal sounds, like the pipes and the furnace, stuff I normally don't notice. But now I was hearing everything. I didn't hear anything else until around 2 a.m. That's when I heard someone trying the front door handle. Not gently like before. This was like pulling really hard, testing it. I could hear the frame move a little. My hands were literally shaking. I grabbed my phone and called 911. The operator picked up, and I explained what was happening. She said a unit was being sent to my house. I told her I was locked in and safe. She told me to stay on the line. I could hear sirens about 5 minutes later. When the police showed up, the officer did a full walk around the house with his flashlight. He checked the yard, the sides of the house, everything. He came to the front door and I let him in. He was pretty professional, but I could tell he was thinking I'd imagined it. He asked me a bunch of questions. The crazy part is, when he went around the back of the house, he found something. There were scratch marks on the back door frame, around the lock area, fresh ones. The officer's whole demeanor changed. He called for backup, and they did a search of the whole property. They found footprints in the dirt behind the house, leading from the woods to my back door, and then going back out to the woods. They were fresh. 2 more officers arrived and they searched the woods with flashlights but didn't find anyone. One of the officers told me they'd increase patrols in the neighborhood, and to call back immediately if I heard anything else. They took a report and told me to consider getting better outdoor lighting and maybe a security system. I never did find out who it was or what they wanted. The police kept saying it was probably someone trying different houses to see if they could find unlocked doors or something. But to me it seemed more deliberate than that. Like they were specifically trying my house. I haven't been home alone at night since then. My wife wanted to move, but we're looking at security cameras and lights instead. I still think about that night sometimes, and I get this sick feeling in my stomach. Whoever it was never came back, but sometimes I wonder if it's because of the police, or if they're just waiting for the right time. This happened to me about 8 months ago. I was living in a rental house just outside of town, one of those older places from the 70s with a big yard and not many neighbors around. My roommate had gone home for the weekend to visit his parents, so I had the whole place to myself. I got off work around 6 that Friday and stopped to grab some food on the way home. When I pulled into the driveway, I noticed the porch light was on. I thought that was weird because I specifically remembered turning it off that morning to save on the electric bill. But then I figured maybe my roommate had come back early to grab something and left it on. I went inside and called out to see if he was there. But the house was silent. His car wasn't in the driveway either, so I knew he wasn't home. I shrugged it off and figured I must have just forgotten to turn the light off myself. I ate dinner and played some video games for a few hours. Around 10 p.m., I decided to take the trash out before bed. When I opened the front door, the porch light was off now. That stopped me in my tracks. I stood there for a second, trying to remember if I'd turned it off at some point, but I knew I hadn't. I'd been in the living room the whole time. Maybe the bulb had burned out. That seemed like the most logical explanation. I flicked the light switch by the door a few times and the light came on, so it wasn't burned out. I took the trash to the curb and came back inside, making sure to lock the door behind me. I turned off the porch light myself this time and went to my room. I was lying in bed scrolling through my phone when I heard something outside. It sounded like footsteps on the gravel driveway. I muted my phone and listened. The footsteps stopped near the front of the house, right around where the porch would be. I got up and looked out my bedroom window, but I couldn't see the front porch from there. I waited for maybe a minute, listening, but didn't hear anything else. I figured it was probably just an animal or something. I got back in bed, but couldn't really relax. Something about the whole thing felt off. After about 10 minutes, I heard it again. Footsteps on gravel. This time they went from the front of the house around to the side, right past my bedroom window. I jumped out of bed and looked out, but whoever it was had already moved past. My heart was racing now. Someone was definitely walking around my house. I grabbed my phone and went to the living room where I could see out the front windows. The porch light was on again. I know for a fact I had turned it off less than 30 minutes ago. That's when I saw him. There was a man standing at the end of my driveway, just at the edge where the streetlight barely reached him. He was facing the house, facing me. I couldn't make out his face, but I could see he was wearing dark clothes and just standing completely still. I ducked away from the window and my hands were shaking. I didn't know what to do. Part of me thought about calling the cops, but what would I even say? There's a guy standing on the street. I waited about 5 minutes and then carefully looked out the window again. He was gone. I checked all the locks on the doors and windows and turned on every light in the house. I tried to calm myself down, telling myself he was probably just some random person walking by, but why would he be turning my porch light on and off? Around 11:30, I was sitting on the couch trying to watch TV and not think about it when I heard a noise from the back of the house. It sounded like the back door handle being turned, just the handle clicking back and forth like someone was testing if it was locked. I froze. The clicking stopped after a few seconds, and then I heard footsteps on the back deck, slow, deliberate footsteps walking across the wood. I grabbed a knife from the kitchen and called 911. I was whispering to the operator, telling her someone was trying to get into my house. She told me to stay on the line and that officers were on their way. The footsteps on the back deck stopped. Everything went quiet. I stayed in the living room, knife in hand, watching both the front and back of the house as best I could. It felt like forever before I heard the sirens. As soon as I did, I saw a figure run across my front yard from the side of the house. He disappeared into the neighbor's yard and into the darkness. The cops got there maybe 2 minutes later. I told them everything. The porch light, the man at the end of the driveway, the back door handle. They searched around the house with flashlights and found footprints in the dirt under my bedroom window and near the back door. They also found something else. On the back deck, there was a screwdriver lying on the ground right next to the door. One of the officers said it looked like someone had been trying to pry. The door opened but must have dropped the screwdriver when they heard the sirens. The officers took a report and said they'd increase patrols in the area. But without a good description of the guy, there wasn't much they could do. They told me to get better locks and maybe consider a security camera. After they left, I called my roommate and told him what happened. He came back that night and we both stayed up until morning with all the lights on. The next day, we did get cameras installed, and about a week later, I was talking to my neighbor across the street. She mentioned that she'd seen a man standing at the end of my driveway a few times over the past month, always late at night. She thought it was weird but figured it was a friend of ours or something. He'd been watching the house, learning our schedules, waiting for one of us to be home alone. I think about that a lot. How many times had he been out there watching before that night? And what was he planning to do if he'd gotten that back door open? The cops never found him. We ended up breaking our lease and moving to a different place 2 months later. I just couldn't stay there anymore, knowing he was out there somewhere and might come back. Every night now, I check every lock twice before bed, and I never ever turn off all the lights. I don't even know why I'm sharing this. Part of me thinks nobody will believe me, but I need to get this out somewhere. This happened last month and it's been eating me alive. I haven't told most people because they already think I'm weird enough. So I work nights, like third shift at a warehouse. I get home around 7 in the morning when it's still dark outside. My girlfriend works days, so she's already gone by the time I get there. I usually sleep during the day, like from 8 a.m. to around 4 p.m. or 5 p.m. Then I'm up in the evenings before I go back to work at 10 p.m. It's a weird schedule, but I'm used to it. This particular night, I got home and my girlfriend had left me some food in the fridge, which was nice. I ate, showered, and got into bed around 7:30 a.m. I fell asleep pretty quick because I was tired from work. I woke up around 3 p.m. and just laid in bed for a bit, scrolling on my phone, not really ready to get up yet. That's when my phone rang. It was our home phone, not my cell. We still have a landline because my girlfriend's mom calls it sometimes, and my girlfriend likes having it for emergencies. I didn't recognize the number on the caller ID. It was all zeros except for a few random numbers, like 00051 or something like that. I figured it was probably spam, so I didn't answer it. It rang again like 2 minutes later. Same weird number. This time I answered because I was annoyed and wanted to tell them to stop calling. "Hello?" I said. There was just silence on the other end. Like dead silence. Not even static or background noise. Just nothing. I could tell someone was there though, because I could feel it, you know. That feeling when someone is listening but not talking. "Hello? Who is this?" I said still nothing. I waited like 10 seconds and then I hung up. I figured it was some kind of prank call thing. Kids calling random numbers to mess with people. But then it kept happening. Every like 15 to 20 minutes, that same weird number would call. I stopped answering after the first time. I just let it ring. It would ring 3 or 4 times and then stop. Then nothing for like 20 minutes. Then it would start again. This went on for like 2 hours. I was getting pretty annoyed at this point. I looked up the number online, but nothing came up. I tried calling it back and got a message that the number wasn't in service. But it kept calling me. My girlfriend got home around 5:30 p.m. and I told her about it. She thought it was funny at first, like I was being pranked. But when it happened again while she was there, she got kind of serious about it. She said we should just ignore it and it would probably stop. We had dinner and watched some TV. The calls stopped around 6 p.m. and didn't start again. We both kind of forgot about it. That night I got ready for work and left around 9:45 p.m. The next day I slept fine and didn't think about the calls much. But that night around 3 p.m., the same thing started again. Same weird number, calling every 15 to 20 minutes. I was definitely annoyed now because I had work that night and I wanted to sleep. I tried unplugging the phone, but then my girlfriend said her mom wouldn't be able to reach us in an emergency. So I plugged it back in and just turned the ringer off. But I could see the phone lighting up every time it rang. The call would go to voicemail, but nothing was ever recorded. Just silence. This went on for 3 days. Every single day around 3 p.m. it would start. Always that same weird number. Always silence when I answered. Always the calls stopping around 6 p.m. On the 4th day, around 2:45 p.m., I answered the phone before it could ring. I just picked it up and said, "Hello?" And I heard something. For the first time, there was actually sound. It was like breathing. Really slow and heavy, like someone was breathing right into the phone. But it was weird because it sounded almost like 2 people breathing, kind of overlapping each other. It was one of the creepiest things I've ever heard. "Who is this?" I said, and my voice was shaking a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. The breathing stopped and then there was like a clicking sound. Then nothing. The call ended. I immediately called my girlfriend at work and told her. She said I should call the police about it. I called the non-emergency line and explained what was happening. The officer who took my report said it could be a lot of things. He said to keep a log of the calls, and if it continued or escalated, they could do an investigation. But honestly, he didn't sound that concerned about it. I didn't get any calls that night, though. I was really worried they'd come back, but nothing happened. The next day, nothing. It's been like 2 weeks now, and I haven't gotten any more calls. But here's the thing that really freaks me out. A few days after the calls stopped, I was doing laundry in the basement and I found something. There's a small window down there, like a basement window at ground level, and there were smudges on it, on the outside of the glass, like someone had been pressing their face against it, looking into the basement. The smudges were pretty fresh because I remember that window being clean a week before. I showed my girlfriend and she said it could have been from an animal or something. But I knew better. Those looked like handprints. Partial handprints on the outside of the window, like someone had their hands up to their eyes looking in. I called the police back and they sent an officer over. He looked at the window and took some photos, but said the smudges could be from anything, and there wasn't really evidence of a crime. He said if it happens again to call back. I installed a security camera pointing at that window. I've been checking the footage every day. So far nothing. But I don't feel safe anymore. Like someone was watching the house. Someone was calling to see if I would answer. And my girlfriend had no idea any of this was happening while she was at work. I don't know who it was or what they wanted. The police never found anything. The calls just stopped, like whoever it was got bored or moved on to someone else. But those handprints on that window and that sound of breathing on the phone, I can't get those out of my head. I keep wondering if they're still out there, if they're just waiting.